If you turn on a television in the early 1990s, you see a very specific kind of comedy dominating the airwaves. Sitcoms were built on high-concept hooks. You had aliens in the suburbs, wacky neighbors popping through the door, and magical powers causing weekly chaos. Then you have Friends. The premise is strikingly mundane. 6 average young adults sitting in a Manhattan apartment or drinking coffee on a couch. No magic, no gimmicks. This presents a massive problem for a television writer. When you strip away the sci-fi tropes and crazy family antics, what actually drives the plot? How do you squeeze 24 distinct half-hour stories a year out of people just hanging out? The creators realized early on that they couldn't rely on wild external situations for their comedy. They had to look inward. They had to engineer the characters themselves to act as self-generating plot machines. In the middle of the first season, the group turns on each other and starts listing out everyone's deeply irritating habits. Ross overpronouncing every single word, Joey constantly cracking his knuckles, and Phoebe aggressively chewing her hair. These brief observations aren't just throwaway punchlines, they represent the internal mechanics of the show. Instead of creating 6 aspirational, perfectly well-adjusted leads, the writers designed 6 highly neurotic personalities. Every character was given a specific set of flaws that would inevitably clash with the others. Friends works because of these specific frictions. By giving each character a distinct psychological baggage, the writers created a narrative engine that never runs out of gas. Take Monica. Her character is built around a pathological need for control. Get her an apartment to clean, and she will have a meltdown over the precise angle of a green ottoman, or demand the use of 5 different vacuum attachments, including the mysterious little round one with the bristles, just to maintain order. Then look at Chandler. His primary function is using constant sarcastic humor to keep anyone from getting too close to him. At one point, a psychologist named Roger joins the group for an evening and explicitly diagnoses this right to his face, pointing out that Chandler uses jokes as a defense mechanism to maintain emotional distance. In traditional sitcoms, the flowchart is simple. An external, wacky event input produces a comedy output. The Friends model makes characters the plot. Drop a mundane object into a character node like Monica, and her operating system fractures it into a dozen conflicting reactions. Once we understand the rules of how these people behave, the writers rarely need to invent wild scenarios. They just drop a normal stimulus into the room and let the operating systems clash. This brings us to the spatial dynamic of the show. Trapping these conflicting archetypes inside a confined Manhattan apartment acts like a pressure cooker. When the holidays roll around, everyone's independent plans collapse. Instead of going home, they are forced to spend Thanksgiving together, locking all their individual neuroses into a shared disaster over lumpy mashed potatoes. Even a casual hangout turns volatile. When the girls ask the guys to teach them how to play poker, the evening instantly escalates into high-stakes psychological warfare as the competitive gloves come off. The ensemble cast functions as a perfectly balanced ecosystem of friction. Put any combination of 2 or more characters in a room, and a viable storyline automatically generates itself. A show focused only on people shouting at each other over a green ottoman would get grating fast if it wasn't anchored to reality. So they grounded the comedy in relatable struggles. Rachel ends the first season learning how to survive as an adult. She gets a waitress job, receives her first paycheck, and experiences the universal horror of finding out someone named Faita has taken all her money. Chandler faces sheer existential dread when he accidentally succeeds at his data entry job. He gets promoted to supervise the company's bureaucratic Winnis data processing system, terrified he'll be trapped in an office cubicle until midnight for the rest of his life. By balancing their personality flaws with universal 20-something anxieties about money and careers, the show keeps the audience deeply invested in the engine. We spend an entire season learning exactly how these character algorithms operate. Because of that heavy lifting, the major dramatic shifts carry genuine emotional weight. We feel the sting of the heavier moments woven between the jokes. We sit with Ross as he struggles to accept his ex-wife having a baby, and we watch the group's hopeful New Year's Eve pact fall completely apart at the stroke of midnight. Take the crystal duck, a ridiculously expensive gift Ross buys for Rachel. When she finds out it's a callback to a gift he once bought for a girl he loved in college, she finally realizes he's been in love with her the whole time. This realization turns an episodic sitcom about hanging out into a serialized romance where every interaction suddenly matters. By the time the first season ends, we formed a powerful parasocial bond with the group. We know their habits and emotional triggers better than we know those of some of our real-life friends. The lasting legacy of Friends is the demonstration that if you engineer specific clashing flaws into your characters, the characters will eventually start